Yo, it's your boy H2O, and welcome back to another edition of the New Balance Podcast. That's right, we are still in this grind of mental health, and I tell you, so many lives have been touched and changed. And as you can see, my squad is in the building. I won't waste any time. We're going to dive right in. We're going to start directly under me. We call her the anchor. She's a clinician. Give it up for my sister, Naila Harrison. What up, sis?
How you doing?
I'm
Blessed
doing
today,
good.
can't complain.
Yes, yes, we are. So good to see your face. And then in the bottom left corner, shooting trays and pulling up from half court, we got the doctor herself, Miss Stacy Page. How you doing tonight, doctor?
I'm doing great.
Good, 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 good. And listen, this squad is not complete because we got a newcomer of the year. You see him to the left hand side. You see him all cool, calm, and collective. But you about to peep his game. Show some love to my brother, brother Kenneth James. What up, my bro?
Man, what's going on, man? It's a pleasure and an honor to be here tonight.
Yes, it is, man. So glad to have you on, man. We've been chopping it up a little. Well, just a little, and we're so excited to have you on with us tonight. The squad and we've been waxing deep for over a month now, as it relates to mental health, and tonight it's not going to be any different. I think I see like a new dish that's about to be created um, right before our eyes, and obviously. Kenneth is on tonight because we're going to talk about his life. This young man has a powerful story. Um, I believe is really going to help a lot of people. I've been blessed just in the short period that I've known him, but it's going to really give us a different perspective when we're talking about mental health. I think we've covered a lot of different areas as it relates to mental health, but I think tonight Kenneth's story and his testimony specifically will be able to dig a little deeper as it relates to mental health. So, where I think I want to dive in is Kenneth, man, just tell the people a little bit about who you are, your life, kind of maybe how we met, and we'll dive in there on tonight.
Well, I was raised in Houston, and I grew up in kind of like a broken family with my mom and dad were there, but like different portions of my life because they were on drugs. So my grandma kind of raised me,
Yeah.
and then it was kind of she was real strict, but grandparents sometimes can't do the job that the parents can do too due to they age and they limitations like that. So I kind of I started running the streets, and I just had kind of like just searching for that family type of thing, because I didn't have it at home. So I went out there and kind of found it, but it was kind of in the wrong place. And I got caught up with the wrong people, and I ended up getting 10 years. So I went down there when I was 17, and I did my whole 10 years. Never like no probation, no good time, nothing like that. I did like a real hard thing in medium custody, closed custody, fed. They shipped me around a lot of different places, and the it changes you. Like when you're a child and you go into prison with grown men, it changes you. Like not all at once, but like every day. Like I like a little piece of whoever you were, it just kind of dies out, and you just become like bitter, hard. Um, the empathy in you kind of just goes out the window because it's like you in a jungle. You in an environment that the only thing that environment understands is survival,
Yeah.
and it's survival of the fittest. So from a mental aspect in that situation, it do something to your mind. So the person that I was when I went in was not the person that I was when I came out. and you kind of just acclimatize, just kind of adapt to your surroundings. So even if you don't want to be that person and you really not that person, you kind of just become who you got to be to survive in now. And then the process of doing that, um, like yo, if you're not strong minded, and even if you are strong minded, it do something to your mind, man. And I've been diagnosed with post traumatic stress disorder. So I grew up in that violent environment and just seeing a bunch of like death was normal in there. You know, people getting beat within an inch of their life is normal in there. People getting stabbed. It was just a lot of violence. So it's kind of like somebody that went to the army and, you know, when they enter a room, they looking for weapons, the exit door, who might be a threat. When you come out of prison like that, like your mentality is totally different. And just trying to like transition from prison and how they do things into society and how they do things out here was kind of like a big step mentally. Cause it's like in now violence kind of rules. And out here it's like that's gonna get you sent back right back to where you came from. So I dealt with like a lot of you know, interacting with other people. The conversations are different in now, the people are different in now.
Yeah.
So it kind of like it took me to kind of like a kind of state of depression. And that depression kind of it makes you want to isolate yourself. It makes you want to, you feel like don't nobody understand. And that was kind of one of the hard things that I kind of dealt with when I got out. So the whole time I was in there, I never learned like, you know, anything positive. I never got my GED. I never did anything. And when I got out, I stayed out 7 months, and I was back with my fourth aggravated robbery. I was facing like a lot of time, and they had me dead to the wrong. And up until that point, I never knew Jesus at all. I never I believed in the game God. You know, I was true to it. Like I was gonna die. You live by the gun, you gonna die by the gun. And when they locked me up, I walked in the cell and I saw like brothers locking C's, B's, and what's up, homie? And I just felt like at that moment, I felt like, man, you threw your whole life away. Like you ain't got no kid, you ain't did nothing like to be proud of with your life, and it kind of broke me. And it didn't break me in a way to where like, I mean, I was kind of built for it, but it broke me in a way to where like my spirit was tired. I was just tired of like I had just went through all of this, and like I just broke down. I broke down and I prayed. I prayed to Jesus and I said, man, everybody been telling me about you. If you get me out of this, I'll serve you till I die. And he delivered me out of that situation. And it was a long like journey that he took me through in that 2.5 years fighting that case. I ended up going to trial, dead to the wrong, and I ended up pleading guilty. And on my fourth aggravated robbery, with me dead to the wrong, um, God delivered me out of that. Man, I got 10 years deferred in a drug program. He started he started transforming my mind in that 2 years. I ended up working in the chaplain's office. I ended up meeting some good people, praying. I ended up getting a spiritual father that kind of just gave me the information that I needed, prayed with me, and just one day at a time, he really changed me. Like my heart ain't like it used to be. The stuff that I used to think about and how I used to do things, I don't got the heart to do it like that no more. And when I
Absolutely.
transform, every day I start feeding my spirit and transforming my mind, because even though you become saved and you become a new creature and all things are new, you got to continue to like transfer your mind. It feeds your spirit. And when I started transferring my mind, that depression started to slip off of me. That them demonic thoughts start getting up. Them voices start. You know what I'm saying? So it was a journey, man. And God took me from glory to glory. You know, I wrote my book, The Spirit of the Streets, in there. I was circulating it on every fro. They gave me a night to preach, and God delivered me out of that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a psych medication. And even though, I don't, if you take medication, some people need medication and prayer. So I don't want to go against that, but I just know that Jesus, he'll he'll transfer your mind totally
Yeah.
to where memories and certain things that I thought I lost, and my perspective in the way that I looked at life, and a lot of bitterness that I had because nobody was, I didn't get visits every week. My
Right.
family was on drugs. I didn't have the expensive lawyer that some of the other brothers had that end up still getting more time than me.
Right.
I was standing on God's word, and that it
Yeah.
was a war. Prayer
Absolutely.
circle,
Yeah.
at night. They want to fight. They want to look at the game. I wanted to pray. And at first I was going about it the wrong way, but then, God showed me a lot of things. Hey, brother, if y'all don't mind, I know y'all want to watch the news. Can we just get 10 minutes, man? That's it. Oh, man, we got you. And just praying with brothers, man, and praying. And that's how I end up getting a blessing. I was in a tank with some deaf people because of my mental you know, disorder. And man, I cut it for this dude, and he went to court, and they were trying to frame him because he couldn't talk. And he came back, and he said he showed me the card, and it was Stacy Buns, and she was a judge, and he was like she was a lawyer. So he gave me the card, and I took it, and I ain't really paying no mind because I ain't got no money, I can't afford it. So I put the card in my little Bible that I take with me to court. And when I went to court, I had a court appointed lawyer that was trying to railroad me. He was like, "Hey, you can sign for 25, or they gonna probably give you like 40, 50, or 60 years. They got everything. They're not even trying to plea bargain with you or anything. So what you want to do?" So I said, "Hey, let's go to trial because you gotta give me that." You know what I'm saying? That ain't, man, God ain't bring me this far to just I can't go out like that. So he said, "Well, when you go out there, just say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, because you're gonna have a judge, a new judge named Stacy Bond." So it didn't click then, but when I got back to the holding tank, I opened my little Bible up, and that was a card. And that was in September. She was gonna be our judge in January. So I sent her a copy of my book. I wrote her a letter. I said, "I ain't trying to do nothing illegal, but I know you're gonna be my judge." Man, I done had a hard all my life. All I need is an opportunity to show you I can be a productive citizen in society. Fast forward, um, like years later, when I finally went to trial, she remembered me. The chaplain's office, Mike Barber, ex all the player, my spiritual father, he got on the stand. They spoke good about me. And she said, "If all these people believe in you, I'm gonna give you a second chance." And I've been out 9 years. Next year will be 10 years on deferred. I ain't had one dirty UA. And Lord say the same. I'll be blessed to get out deferred probation next year.
Incredible,
And
incredible, incredible.
yeah,
Man,
God
that's
is so
incredible. I want
kind.
to jump in. I want to jump in there. We're going to come back to you, Kenneth, because you unpacked a lot of different things. Before I pass it over to the doctor and our clinician, two things I want to really talk about, the trauma that you dealt with. And even before you went into the system, you said it out of your mouth, just the trauma of not having your parents. Obviously, man, your story, your situation is so, it's probably at the forefront of the thing that I want to fight for, and help, especially our black men in general, but especially our brothers, who deal with the same thing that you dealt with. And obviously, prison, it had its own mental trauma and mental issues with its experience. but I also want to, and the ladies are, I know they're going to address it, but I want to really talk about the mental um, trauma that you had from just not having your mom and your dad. Coming from a family where everybody was on drugs, and I think those that are listening to this, those that will watch this, first off, if you have loved ones that are in, let's believe for them to get another chance. Let's believe that whatever change that needs to happen is going to happen. Let's believe when they do get out that they get the help they need and can make the change. We're sitting on here with a living witness. Somebody, God had to touch somebody to believe in this young man. And because God touched different people, we're on here having a podcast today, some almost 10 years later. So for that, just in itself is incredible. So what I want to do is I want to relinquish and I want to hear from the doctor and the clinician. Ladies, talk to us and let's talk a little bit about we started this whole we jumped this whole podcast off looking at a time in space where there was no mental health. Obviously, the day that we live in, we could just point to so many different things as it relates to Kenneth. Talk to us, Dr. Stacy. I told you that I had a surprise for each and every one of you, and so I know you're eager to share, Dr. Page.
All right. So first, Kenneth, thank you for sharing your story. You were very brave to do that. And you are a perfect example of somebody that had all the odds stacked against him. But in the end, you did not give up. You kept going. I do have a background working in the criminal justice system. So my first full-time job was actually working in the prison. So I've been at three different units. So I'm very familiar with the whole prison environment, what goes on in that environment. And he's exactly right. It is a very hard environment, a very tough environment. It is very different from what we experience here. And I know with him going in at such a young age, going in at 17, um, at that point in time, I mean, he's still, a adolescent. He's not yet an adult. So I can only imagine what you went through once you got there, and just having to be in that whole situation and adapt to it. Because again, it is pretty tough. So I will say what I've seen in all of my years of working in the justice system is we do see a lot of young Black men, and I've seen a lot of young Black men. When they actually go into that system, it does change them a lot. Not only have they experienced the trauma prior to that, but then once they get there, then you have the additional trauma because they're seeing again, the fights, they're seeing people, get stabbed, killed, all kinds of other stuff. So really it's just compounded. So um, what typically happens is some of them do develop mental health issues, or if they already had them, then it's just basically exacerbated once they get there. And when it comes to the prison system, I will say no, they do not have the best mental health care. A lot of times they're left to just kind of face those issues on their own. We do see some, just depending on what happens, some of them they are able to get the care that they need. And I know since I've left, and it's been some years since I've worked in the actual system, when it comes to the mental health treatment in there, it's almost pretty much non-existent. Okay. So even though they're reaching out, they're asking for the help, right now, they really just don't have a lot of resources. So once they do, get released and they're out back into society, then they do have the whole, they got to get out, they got to get it together, they got to get the resources. So for some people, it can be pretty tough.
Before you go, Naila, is it, Dr. Page, is it also safe to say, so do you feel like just with your experience, and you can chime in on this too, Kenneth, in your experience and what you've seen, is it safe to say in some of the cases with the overwhelming odds being against, do you feel like there are times where brothers or even women, they decide it's probably even better for me not to try. I might as well just do what I'm gonna do so I can go back to what's familiar, meaning being locked up and just accept that as a way of life. Is that safe to say, or is it just a case by case thing?
That is safe to say. I have seen a lot of individuals go back. I remember I probably maybe been working at the prison, I'm gonna say maybe 6 or 7 months. And there was one of the guys came, he told me he was, getting out. He was like, I'm getting released. He had his plan together, he was going to stay with family and everything. So I was excited for him. And the day before he left, he came and he told me, he said, well, you know what I was thinking last night? He was like, I probably won't make it. And I was like, well, why do you say that? I'm like, you got a plan, your family's there, they're coming to pick you up, you seem to have everything situated. But he was like, I've been, locked up for so long. He was like, I don't know how I'm going to do out in the world. Because, of course, in prison, they don't have the same stuff we have in the world. I mean, sometimes by the time they get out, I mean, we're, 5, 10, 15 years ahead. So they have to get out and try to adjust to all that. And he stood there, he was like, well, if I don't make it, I know I can always come back here because this is what I'm used to. And so I was doing, my best to, actually try to motivate him not to come back because I'm like, you should be done with this, it's in your past. And so he left. And then probably maybe 3 or 4 months later, I walked into work one day and he was back. And he said that once he got out, one, he didn't have the support that he needed. So
There it
as
is.
far as, trying to get a job and everything, I mean, his family was there trying to help him, but there were a lot of other doors that were closed because all people could see was, oh, you've been locked up, for
Right.
X number of years. So they
Right.
put the whole label on him. So he had a hard time, getting a job, things like that. He was on parole. And so he just decided that instead of trying to deal, with all the challenges and roadblocks and obstacles he was facing, he just felt, well, it's just easier for me to go back because I know
Mm,
where I'm going to sleep. I know what I'm going to eat. I'm going to have a job. Everything is going to be fine because I'm used to that environment. So what
right.
he did, he actually just went to a store. He stole some candy, chips, and soda. Basically, it was a misdemeanor, but they violated his parole, and he did it
Man,
just so that he could go back.
incredible. Incredible. You can comment on that, Kenneth, as well, based off of your experience and what you've seen. Because you said one word. I'm gonna come back to it later, but she's like, he didn't have the support, even though you said his family was gonna be there. But we all know that even though your family, they could provide a place for you to stay and even kind of help you get on your feet with some finances, even maybe finding your job, there is still that mental piece that has to be worked on. And if it's not worked on, we know we're going to go back to what's familiar. Go ahead, Kenneth.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. There was a dude named I think Alley Cat, and he had done like 40 years, and he stayed out. I think like it was like 15 days, and then he came back because he had grew up in there like me, and I mean like it was 30 or 40 years, so that's all that he knew. But all of his family had like died.
Okay.
So that's one the support system, and then the mentality of him. He was institutionalized like to the third degree.
Hmm.
So even if like let's say you what let's say that you're not in that situation and you just getting out into the world, there needs to be some type of program or some type of because even with family support, if your family never experienced that, they don't know how to actually deal with you in a manner that's productive to your mentality. And then on top of that, going out into the world and like trying to get jobs and things like that. See, in jail, you get 3 meals a day. You got a blanket, you got a bed. I mean, worst case scenario, you don't make commissary. And then you can always get soups and stuff like that. But when you step out into the world, it's like if you don't have no money, you can't do nothing. And then imagine if you going back into an unproductive environment. Like
Right.
they ain't coming out and going to River Oaks. They
I
coming
got
out
you.
and going to Fifth Ward and the projects and
Yes,
Kelly Clay.
sir.
They going into environments that are hostile environments. And it's
Yeah.
like, what are the people around me doing? If
Yeah.
they knew better, they'd do better. But it's like the only thing that they seeing is the same thing they left before they went in. And
That's
there's
good.
no counselor on the corner. Cause I mean, they scared to come around that side of town. even if
Gotcha.
they did, so I don't know how we could get around that, but that's a big
That-
issue.
That's good. We're gonna come back and we're gonna address that before we leave the podcast, guys. Don't let me forget it. Let's definitely. I want to address that. I have some thoughts about it. Miss Naila.
Thank you also. I want to thank you, Kenneth, for being willing to tell your story because it takes a lot of courage
Mm,
to do that.
yes.
Um, I can relate to your situation as two different ways. My dad was an addict my whole life, and then he ended up going to prison in his
Mm,
50s, if I'm not
wow.
mistaken. He
Wow.
was in his 50s. And he ended up being like the jailhouse preacher, he say. He was in the telling everybody about the word of God for the time he was there. And I recently, what I most connected with was the fact that you said that, you know, nobody understands what it's like. My
Yeah.
cousin recently came out and he had the support, right? He had the family, he had a place to stay. He came out to really a ready-made family because he'd had a child right before he went in. And he was in there for about 3.5 years. And he was like, I feel like I'm losing my mind because everything in the world is going on. And it's like nothing stops. And that kind of like when I heard you talking, that's all I was thinking about is him saying nothing stops. It's like I come out and then you got my grandmother is sick. I got the new baby. I got the baby mama. I got, hey, can you go do this? Hey, can you go do that? He said, and my mind won't stop moving. I got all these thoughts in my mind and it's too much. It's overwhelming. And I don't know where I fit in all of this. I feel like it might be better for me to go back there because I know what to expect there. And this is somebody who had a lot of support, right? A whole lot of support. So it makes me think about what happens when you don't have the support. You mentioned counselors don't go to the street corners. Well, he could call me, right? And I intentionally reached
Definitely.
out. Yeah, I intentionally reached out, Kenneth, because I was like, you know what? I know it's difficult and I know he's having a hard time. But then I also think about, I get real deep in my thoughts. I think about what if somebody goes in and they have childhood traumas that they haven't addressed? So you have the parents who are addicts. What if you've experienced sexual abuse and domestic violence on top of that? I'm just being real because a lot of that happens in the Black community and they don't talk about it,
Right.
right? And it happens to Black men. What
Right.
if you experience that? So if you have that trauma and then you go in prison and you're dealing with the traumas from your childhood that you didn't deal with, and you're dealing with the traumatic experience of being in a prison with all these people, it's like you go into a war as a child.
Yeah. And it
And
make you.
that's, what'd you say?
I said make you. I mean it force you to become like a warrior.
That's it.
Like yeah.
And how
Yeah.
do warriors think? What do warriors do? They always ready for battle.
Hmm.
They paranoid. They paying attention to everything everybody doing. You have
Right.
family functions watching where everybody's hands are because you can't focus. You don't trust anybody around you. I saw it when he came out. I saw all of this happen, and
Yeah.
I'm paying attention because I have the knowledge, right? And I have the training to pay attention, and then I genuinely care because it's a relative. But when you look at it from a different perspective, it's like, wow, you can't even be comfortable outside around your people because you don't know those people the way you knew them when you went in.
Right.
Those are different people.
Mm,
Yeah. And something else, like your family when you leave and go away for like, decades and some people centuries, while you were gone, those special moments, the inside jokes, like when you come back around, it's like they bring up old stories and you not in the story. They laughing and it's inside jokes, but you sitting back like, man, I missed that, or man, I don't know what they talking about, or you been gone so long to where the conversation don't even match to where they talking and you don't know what's really going on. So it makes you feel like isolated. It makes you feel insecure. It makes it makes you look at it like everybody want to be comfortable. So what's next? Let me just go try to get a whole bunch of money. If I fail in the process, at least I'm going back to what I'm comfortable with, to where my new family is, if you will.
Right. Kenneth, I wanna segue here, and obviously, the life you once lived, you're no longer living that life. So, praise be to God for that. But we know you didn't open like a Cracker Jack box, and your problems being fixed and solved was in that Cracker Jack box. We understand that you had to put some work in, right? And I
Definitely.
think one of the things I like about you is your life now and where your life is going is not dependent upon anybody but you, right? In other words, okay, my past, that's my past. I take full responsibility for it. Now, anybody who doesn't have their parents, man, it's like starting off at a deficit. And depending on who you are, it can affect you in many ways. Many of us may not ever have gone to prison or done the things. But my point is this: you went through it, you came out, and you made, listen, a decision and a choice, right? What I want you to talk about now is the decisions that you made and the choices that you made. How, because you've decided just to go forward, not saying it's been perfect, not saying it's been just a smooth ride, but because you've made that decision, I want you to talk about what that looks like, and then talk about when you made that choice to go forward, how God Himself has begun to bring people in your life, begin to bring resources in your life to make your life be what He originally meant for it to be. Can you talk a little bit about that? And then I want to bring the doctors back in.
So I wrote that book like 10 years ago, and God is just putting the proper people in my life
Yeah.
to bring it to the light
I just want
right
to show it
now.
while you're talking about it.
But
Can you guys see
yeah,
it?
but it was a journey into getting me to the level that I am in order for me to be able to do this.
Right.
So I'm not perfect, and I got my flaws, and
Yeah.
my journey ain't been easy. But one thing that I did, and I have, and I will continue to keep first, is Jesus in my life.
Got you.
And that right there, that's the solid foundation right there for me. And everything else, it just kind of builds on top of it. And meeting you, Mr. Harry, I know it wasn't an accident.
Okay.
When we were at Authors United, shout
Right.
out to Media Block.
Shout out to
They
Media
kind
Block.
of, yeah, man, they kind of brought brought us together, and we just started talking, and from now, man, we just kind of been communicating and staying on the path, and I just know that God got some for us to do, man, and got something real big for you to do. And my growth is kind of just, man, it's on a day-to-day basis. I have my
Right.
good days and I have my bad days, but I pray through it, and I try to keep my mind focused on heavenly things. I try to keep
Right.
my mind, you know, and days I have some bad days, and I have, it's never just gonna go away.
Absolutely.
It's always, but you got to be willing to put the work in to read, to stay on top of your. Sometimes you got to watch what you eat, because
Right.
it'll have your mind messed up or have you feeling a certain way,
That's correct.
and staying grounded. I
Right.
think that's real important.
Is it safe to say this? Because I don't want to put words in your mouth or anybody's mouth, but is it safe to say, and you did, I'm gonna do the example. You said I keep Jesus first, right? And you said everything else stacks on top of it. Is it safe to say, even though you don't have the good, you say you have bad days and you ain't perfect and all that, but because you have him, the places that you can't fill, is it safe to say he fills those places? He fills the gaps for you. It's a, when you think about the story where they were on the boat with Jesus, Jesus was at the bottom of the boat sleeping. We know the storm came. Jesus told them before the storm even came, we're going to the other side. And our lives is representative of us going from one place to another. Now, that story could go two different ways. We know the story because he was on the boat, right? And the disciples was tripping, right? It's like they were bugging out. And that's how life is. It'll make us bug it out, right? And so it got to the point where they had to wake Jesus up. And I'm like, man, master, do you care if we perish, man? And Jesus is like, bro, just speak to the storm. Now, I'm saying that sounds so simple, but the truth of the matter is, I don't care who you are in life, to a greater or lesser degree, when you have him in your life, he can fill the gaps and the places that we come short in. That's one of the powers and the privileges of having him in your life. Now, from a spiritual standpoint, we all know what that's like. But I understand there may be some people watching. It's like, okay, I hear you talking about Jesus. I don't know him. I don't have a relationship with him. So for that individual who doesn't know Jesus yet, right? Because we're hoping, hey, you're gonna get to know him, right? What natural things? That's why I have the doctors and the clinicians on. What natural things did you do? Obviously, I know you're a believer, man. You're a man of prayer. You believe in the Lord. You believe in serving, right? You believe in serving other people. That's one of the things God's called us to do. We know those things as a Christian, but I want to talk to those who may not know what the four of us know, who may have not had the experience. Because one of the things I'm telling you, one of the things that's definite about God, when you need help and you cry out to him, I don't care how low you are, he'll come as lower as you are. The woman that the scribes and the Pharisees brought to Jesus and wanted to stone, she was down, and Jesus got down where she was. And so somebody that's watching, you may think that you're not worthy. You might think that you've been written off. You might think that there is no more gas in the tank. And I'm telling you, those are all lies. If you still have breath in your body, there's an opportunity. So Kenneth, just to someone, um, just natural things that you can do. Talk about some of just the natural things, maybe even just some of your daily activity. Because like you said, when you go in, you're institutionalized. So when you get out, I don't care if you've been out for 2, 3 days, whatever your routine was while you were in there, that's the thing that you know. So on purpose, what do you do, or what did you do, Kenneth?
Well, first of all, if you feel like your situation is a situation that's impossible for anybody to fix, try Jesus. He'll fix it.
Yes.
And that's just the one point. But read my Bible and praying.
Okay.
You have to feed your spirit to transform your mind.
Okay.
Like social media can be used in different ways. Make sure that you
That's good.
feed your spirit instead of your flesh when you going about your day-to-day activities. And always been a giver. So I mean just serving. Like it ain't always gotta be about getting something out of a situation. Just lose yourself and just start serving people. And you will see that in it there's a blessing in serving others.
Okay.
And one of my mentors told me that the bigger blessings are on the are the lower that you get on the shelf. The higher you get, puffed out with your chest puffed out, the smaller the blessings, the lower you get, the humbler you get, the bigger the blessing. So practice being humble.
That's good. That's good. Now we talk. Obviously, you and I talk, and so I told you about, um, these ladies. So, what would your advice be to the young man or the young woman who was you when they got out? Obviously, okay, okay, there's a saying like, I'm gonna try Jesus. We all know you can't try Jesus. uh, you have to fully engulf yourself in him. So okay, they're following Jesus now. They uh reading their Bible, they're praying. How would you encourage them to connect with these two ladies that are on the screen? What's your words of wisdom to them? Because I'm gonna have the doctors come back and I'm going to ask them some questions as relates to what you said and how they would diagnose it. But I want to hear from you. What would your advice be? Because I have a friend from years ago who went to prison, and he was gonna be in for a longer sentence, but God got him out. I can't remember the specifics of it, but I do remember this. When he was in, while he was in, he ended up learning a trade, and he was with a gentleman who taught him, who had the responsibilities for cleaning buildings. And that guy taught him how to clean. While he was in there, he decided that, hey, when I get out, I'm going to start my own janitorial services. When I met him at the time, he became a member of the church I was going to, and I watched God listen to me. I watched a guy that got out of prison. I watched God raise him up. He started that business. Man, he had a green Ford Taurus. If he's watching this, he know exactly who I'm talking about. He was hauling that cleaning equipment buffer in his trunk in his car. We stayed in the same apartment complex. I remember when he got his first contract. Now this young man, he got the city of Houston on lock. He got contracts all out the state. He employs, I forget how many employees. Now watch this. Who are his employees? He employs those who get out of prison. That's what he does. Been doing it for years. His brother, he's sharp. Now, I can't go into detail in terms of his mental state and that type of thing. We've never had that type of conversation, but I do know the possibilities of when you surrender, right? And you want to have something different. So I do have I've seen it, right? I met you. I'm seeing it. So to the person that may be watching, or to that family member who's has the loved one and they're maybe writing them or calling them, or like you say, go to visit them. Like, we want to give them some hope, like some practical things that they can do and they can believe and cling to. Because there are many people who are just have lost their hope as it relates to their loved ones who are locked up. And so I have someone on who's been on the other side, and now you're on this side. So what would you accredit to just mental health, getting your mental health, getting a better mental health, or a better picture of your mental health in your life?
I, so what question do you want me to answer?
About the
You
mental
said about
health. Yeah, about like you, because you talked about, you say you had, was it PTSD? Is that correct? Right.
yeah,
So talk. So
PTSD.
right. So even though I know you prayed, you read your word, but like there are some natural things that we know we have to do as well, right? So let me give you an example. So let's say you may have struggled sleeping while you were locked up, right? For whatever the reason is, whether you fear for your life or you fear for your cellmate, whatever it was, you develop that behavior while you're in there. So now that you're a free man and you get out, that doesn't just go away, right? So what things um, can someone do, or what did you do to overcome that particular mental trauma, that mental illness, or that mental health that you deal with? And I may be
I
confusing you
kind
with
of
my question.
no, I understand it, but I'm just trying to think. So I did a lot of praying, but just kind of when you get back into society, you just kind of gotta adapt to your environment like
Right.
again, but you gotta have patience with yourself. So
Okay.
what I really did was like, when I catch myself when some chaos is going on, or when I get around too many people and I start getting that feeling like, okay, there might be a riot or some commotion over there. And I just had to like take a deep breath,
Okay.
kind of just slow myself down to
Okay.
analyze the situation and kind of keep through repetition telling myself, hey, hey man, you're in the gallery. This is not prison. Like you do
Absolutely.
not have and I
That's
mean,
good.
even though it's still, this is the world, but it's it's levels. It's two different worlds. So
That's
I
good.
have to through repetition keep telling myself, hey, calm down.
That's good.
You're not in prison. Let's look at this situation for what it is. They
Right.
just arguing over there. It's not, and most of the time it will be just that. It
Got you.
wouldn't go as far as I saw it because I was used to seeing it taken that far. Because if you don't take it that far in that environment, you know, so that's one of the key things that I had to do. Keep putting things in a proper perspective and
Good.
kind of just do that through repetition.
Okay.
That was one of the things.
So would that be safe to say, even as it relates to your family? Because you mentioned, the situation, how your family was before you went in. So now that you're out, do you have access to those family? Are you around that family? Like, what is it? What does the family model look like? Because, like you say, when people get out, 9 times out of 10, they go back to the familiar place, which is their family or loved ones or friends. Like, so what is that environment when you're in that environment?
A lot of, so for me when I got out, and a lot of, I'm gonna say a large percentage of the people that are getting out didn't have like family support, and if they did, it might have been one visit a year.
Right.
You know, so a lot of them are angry and have some animosity towards that when they get out. The
Okay.
key thing that I had to do to really unlock my relationship with my family was forgive them.
Okay. Good.
Like that was the first. Like, you're not gonna go no further with anything with them until
That's
you,
good.
for one, forgive them. But you got to do it from a pure heart and a sincere place.
Got
Not
it.
just saying, "Hey, I forgive." Like, you really, really gotta forgive them,
That's
and
great.
that helped my relationship. And my dad is in rehab right now. Just
Oh wow.
happened to be like 19 minutes away from him, and he's doing good. And my dad,
That's great.
he didn't really, he's not a praying man or anything.
Right.
He has found Jesus. He's doing the big book steps, and for the first time, I feel like in my life since he slipped, that he's in a good place right now. We talk, I done met with him, took him out to eat, and that's just a blessing in itself. And
Yeah.
it took a long time to give, but forgiveness,
Yeah. I
because
love it.
people have done things that some people think that's unforgiving, but he forgives all. And you
Yeah.
gotta have that. You gotta have that forgiveness.
Oh man, that's good stuff. Good. I'm trying my best to pull it out of you, brother. You giving us some dimes. So at this point, I want to hear from the doctor. I want to hear from Naila as well, ladies, based off of what he said, because we believe in a holistic approach, right? We definitely not laying our faith down. We definitely believe in the power of Jesus, the blood, and His Word. But also, we know we're workers together with Him. So there are some natural things, right? We know He's given us doctors. Um, I love it. Dr. Page says you can have Jesus and you can have a therapist, right? So when you talk about that, ladies, let's break down some of the things that we heard Kenneth share with us.
So one of the things he mentioned was forgiveness.
Yes.
Forgiveness is huge because
Yeah.
again, we can go through life and we go through a lot of stuff. We have a lot of hurt, and we just some of us seem to hold on to all the pain and
Right.
anger and hurt. And of course, one day it's going to come out in some shape, form, or fashion. So I always suggest to people, whatever's happened, whoever's hurt you, you need to forgive them.
Mhm.
And forgiveness, it's not for the other person. Forgiveness is for you.
That's
It's
good.
so that you can begin to heal. Because if you're holding on to all the hurt and pain and whatever they said, whatever they did, guess what? They don't care because they're going on about their life. Okay. Most people are not even worried about you at that point anymore. So forgiveness is for you so that you can start that healing process and that you can heal so that you can move forward with your life. And the other person that hurts you, they don't still have that power and control over you. I always
Right.
tell my clients, keep your power and control. When I used to work with the kids, they were like, I can't forgive them because they did this, they did that. And I'm like, but don't let anybody have that much power and control over you to where you can't forgive and you can't move on with your life. I will say when it comes to people that are getting out of prison, one thing is if they do have the family support, definitely have their family start putting some things in place even before they get out.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll help them with the plan, but the plan is kind of like the bare minimum, where they're going to live, where they're going to look for a job, things like that. A lot of times they don't take into consideration the mental health issues. And
Right.
so when they get out, it's like, yeah, you got the place to stay, you know where to report if you're on parole and all of that stuff. But what you don't have is, where do you go for medical services? Where do you go for mental health? So then when they get out, they're trying to navigate all of this. And it's a lot because they're just trying to adjust to being, back out in the world, being back out in society. So I always suggest that as far as the family, when they start doing their plan, before they even get released, ask them about, mental health, things like that, because they do have case managers in there, and the
Right.
case managers need to do their jobs and not just what address are you going to. So ask about, if there's any physical health, issues they need help with, mental health, things like that. Then once they get out, at least they will already have some resources in place. They do have the reentry programs where there are a lot of people that they will go to the reentry programs once they get out, and they'll help them with, like driver's license, place to stay, things like that. But again, a lot of times they don't hook them into some of the proper services that they actually need. And so that's where it's really crucial, if they do have a family, that the family can help them with some of that and get some
Right.
things in place. So when they get out, it just makes it a little bit easier, because then they can go ahead and access those services once they get out. And even the case managers, before they get out, they can go ahead and set up appointments and things like that, and just make it a little bit easier for them.
Mm, good stuff. Thank you, Doc.
You're welcome.
I heard you say, Kenneth, that you made a choice, right?
Yeah, he did.
So
Yeah.
you chose not to be a victim of circumstance. That's the first step in making that choice. You're choosing not to be a victim of circumstance. Then you realize the solid rock of your foundation was Jesus. So you chose to lean not to your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him. So he could make your path straight, right? So a lot of the things you were mentioning was what you do to cope. And we don't always use that word, of course, right, in our culture. But you mentioned you would stop and you would breathe and you would be present in the moment, right? Stopping, inhaling, taking those deep breaths through your nose, holding them at 4 counts, exhaling through your mouth at 4 counts, and then that positive self-talk and reminding yourself, hey, calm down, be easy. You are not there. Everything is okay. It's not what you think it is. That's you practicing mindfulness and being present in the moment. Healthy coping. You've been mentioning healthy coping skills. Okay. So then you also mentioned that you would pray. My cousin is now Muslim. So I said, okay, what did you do when you first came out that helped you? You prayed. Now, we don't have the same beliefs, but if prayer helps you and you pray 5, 6 times a day, I'm going to need you to stop, drop, and roll and pray, because that's what helps you and it keeps you grounded and centered. It's important to have a pattern and to have a
Mm,
regular routine, right? Because
mm.
that helps you be balanced. It helps
Yeah,
you maintain stability.
yeah,
So making sure you have that stability and that routine, important. Support system. Your support system is not always going to be your family. You
mm,
already mentioned someone who helped you when you were in prison, and he guided you in the right direction, right?
right.
And he gave you the support you need. You mentioned several people. So you have to build the support system that's in line with the man you are now and the man you're trying to be. You want to surround yourself with like minded individuals, not the same people, because the same people didn't just go through the struggle that you went through the past 10 years, right? Or however long you in prison, if you listen to our podcast. They you don't want to hang with the same old people because they don't know what you just went through and you try not to go back to,
Wow.
right? So you surround yourself with people like you said, Harry, you was like, yeah, we did some stuff, we met, I know you're gonna do great things, we gonna do great things together. It's
Absolutely.
the mindset. Your
Hmm.
entire mindset shifted. But it took a lot of intentionality because I know you have other businesses too, I believe Harry mentioned. So I know that it's the mindset too. So
Yeah.
you made a choice
Yeah.
You chose not to have that mentality, and you chose to change your mindset and to be intentional about the decisions that you made, the people you had around you, and you chose not to do the other negative coping skills that you probably did before you went in because you don't want to be in that lifestyle anymore. So you
Mm.
can also identify other coping that you could do, things that like writing, journaling. You're an author now, so I'm sure you still write. So journaling is another good thing that people could do, writing down your thoughts and feelings, because that could translate into a book. So thank you so much for sharing all that, because it's like you show us and the people watching that there is hope,
Yeah.
but you just have to choose
Yeah.
to do the right thing.
Yeah. Oh man, incredible. Oh wow. I gotta run with this piece here. As we get close to our closing. Oh man, I want to be on with y'all forever, but we have to get out. You said two things, Naila. You said balance. No, you said pattern and you said balance. Um, the purpose of this particular podcast, obviously, is we're talking about mental health, but the other purpose of it is, you said, well, it seems as though you guys should have spent more time talking about life on the inside of the prison and the mental health from that aspect. And that would I could see that, right? But really my my belief and my faith is this: the purpose of this podcast is for you to have hope that your loved one is getting out to never go back. When they get out, obviously we know there's some things that has to be put in place. So perhaps you may be one of the tools that God is going to use to help them regain their life, right? Or to restart their life. And I want you to think about this. I read this scripture. I don't know which episode it was, but we talked about some emotions. So the scripture is Proverbs chapter 15, verse 13. And it says, a merry heart maketh a cheerful countenance. Look at Kenneth. The brother is cheerful. There's obviously some work that's gone on, but the scripture continues. It says, but by sorrow of heart, the spirit is broken. We know in our prison system, our brothers, our sisters, they are broken. Now let's look at some of those emotions. One of the emotions that comes from that, right? When you see the heart, the spirit is broken, we see suffering, we see disappointment, we see shameful, we see neglect, we see regret, and we see guilt. We heard Kenneth talk about those things as he talked about his shared his story. He started from the beginning. Before he went to prison, he's like, man, my home situation wasn't the best. And so we have spent a lot of time, and I'm not just talking about this podcast, we've spent a lot of time talking about the problem. And we talked a little about the problem tonight, but we dare not come together like this and not talk about a solution. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this, I want whatever family, and you may have to do it by yourself. But if you have somebody that can touch and agree with you, I want you to sit down and begin to think about the solution that's going to help them get their life back, he or she. Solutions, right? If you don't know, pray, ask God. If you don't know, reach out to a medical, occupational health professional, whomever you need to get the help from. Their life is worth it. And we're going to believe that when they get out, they're going to stay out. Now, this won't be popular. It may not, this podcast may not be shared on many pages, but we want to bankrupt this prison system. What does that look like? It looks like the closing of some of these prisons. They can't stay open if they don't have people to put in them, or if the people that are in them are getting out, right? And I believe that to be something that's doable, but we have to put in the work to do it. Now, there's a young man that's on this podcast who, I mean, it's not enough time to share all of his story. He's doing some incredible things now. Now, this won't be the last time I'll be on with him, but tonight I thought it'd be great for him to share his story, to give somebody some hope, man. Like, you look, this is the season of things turning around. I promise you that. And I'm telling you, the ladies know what I'm talking about. There's a power in the leftovers. I'm gonna leave it right there. I'm gonna leave it right there. So
Real talk.
um, this book, I want to make sure you guys can see it. It's called The Spirit of the Streets: Road to Redemption. This is Kenneth James' book. You need it in your hand. You have young men in your life, young women in your life, fathers, mothers. I want you to purchase it. Kenneth, tell us where we can get this book, how we can reach you. And then I want to talk a little bit in the last closing minutes about something you and I are very passionate about and that we want to do, and how people can support it. So tell them where they can find this book, and just talk a little bit about some of the other things that you're doing, that God has blessed you to do, Kenneth.
You can find it. It's called The Spirit of the Streets, The Road to Redemption, and you can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Kindle books. The Instagram is at the street author. You can
Yes.
follow me on there. You can DM me on there, and yeah, those are all the places you can get it. Or I mean, if you DM me, I can personally pull up and autograph it and get it to you. But
Okay.
the whole foundation of that book came from K&G Solid Services. So that's a pressure washing company that I run, and God blessed me to build it up, and I'm like a top 10 in Houston, and I started off washing cars
Let's go.
with a pressure washer and a truck, and yeah, now I don't even wash my own truck, like, humbly, because I told all my clients I'm just straight commercial now. But
That's what's up.
$2 of the proceeds off of every book goes to the prison ministry.
Yes.
So whenever you get a service from us, I'm buying more books, and then portions of those books are going back to help brothers, and then a lot of my staff that work for me are convicts that are serious about changing their life, and we all go to church together.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so I'm hiring brothers that are getting out of the system and kind of just making everything kind of work together, and kind of giving back in that way.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of
Incredible.
like,
Incredible. Um,
and
this brother.
that's what this is too. That's the symbol for the K&G Solid Services right
Yeah,
there.
man. We see you blinding us on the podcast with that bling it. We see it. The Lord has been so good. And
Yeah, he take pleasure in our prosperity.
yes, he does. Yes, he does. You know, one of the things that Kenneth and I are very passionate about, not only about helping our brothers behind bars and helping them get out, about the new life, we also are very passionate. And he's turned me on to how we can get our books and this word and these methods that we're talking about behind prison walls, right? And there's some information that's going to be coming real soon about that. I'm so excited about it. Um, Jesus, we know, man, the word needs to be spread across the globe, right? But you understand there's not enough time, there are not enough days, weeks, months in the year to do it that way. But in this time that we live in, because of technology, we can spread the gospel to the four corners of the world. And so that's one of the ways he and I are going to work together to do that. And there are going to be opportunities for you to be a part of it. So I want you guys to stay tuned for that. And Ken, he's leading us, man. We got some information, and man, God, we know God's going to honor it. Um, I don't know anything about jail. I'm so thankful that I don't. Not even I've never even been to jail. I'm thankful for that. But just because I haven't been doesn't mean I'm cut off for those who are behind bars. So I want the fathers that have been praying, mothers, grandmothers, aunties, uncles, um, don't stop praying. God hears your prayers, and I believe because you've been praying, God's going to raise up people to answer some of those prayers. So be encouraged, be encouraged. Well, listen, man, we got to get out of here. I want to give everybody an opportunity. We always like to have our guests have closing words. So I'll start with you first, Kenneth. Just big kudos and big ups to you, man, for coming on and being open, honest, and sharing your story, and just really taking us behind the scenes of your life, and being open. I know this is going to help a lot of people, and we just really appreciate your labor of love. What's some closing words, Kenneth?
Um, my closing words would be just because you feel like you've been doing something all your life don't mean that you gotta continue doing it. You don't
Mm,
gotta sell dope to get a nice car, man. You God will prosper you when He see you trying. All you gotta do is step out in faith, and He gonna give you an overflow. You faithful with a little bit, I guarantee He'll give you a lot. And to everybody getting out of prison, just put your best foot forward, pray, make that first effort out, and Jesus he gonna do the rest.
mm. I love it. I love it. I want to say to these two young ladies down here, man, I don't, um, I'll keep it real brief. I got so much love for them. They have really plowed this out, with me, these last 6 weeks, however long we've been doing it. We kind of started, now we didn't we started last year. And to be honest, I really see this mental health, um, being championed and growing in such a huge way. And I do appreciate you ladies helping me do this. And I'm just excited about all of our future endeavors that we're going to get to do together to help families get their lives back. So, um, July 16th this year, 2020, we're having the Hope Symposium 2020, East Texas, Palestine, Stand Up 2022. Thank you. Yeah, 20. No, don't show up for 2020. Don't go back in time to 2022 because we won't be there. Thank you. Oh, man. Yeah. Thank you so much. That's why you got to have help. Yes, Hope Symposium 2022, July 16th, Palestine Stand Up. We're coming. Um, the registration is already out. Just go to Eventbrite and type in Hope Symposium 2022. Register is free registration. If you have enjoyed these ladies being on with me, you can come see them in person. They are going to be tag teaming, and man, woo, it's going to be heavy. As my grandma say, do you want the 30 weight serve or do you want the light serve? This is heavyweight what we pulling, right? Yes, yes, yes,
Real
yes.
heavy.
Heavy. This I promise you, this is
Yeah.
heavyweight. And we have a lot that we're talking about doing. And I just pray, man, by the grace of God, we'll be able to do those things this year. So I'll kind of be quiet, but give us some closing words, Dr. Page and Naila.
Thank you, Harry, for allowing me to be on another panel. So just to share my wisdom and insight. And I would like to just commend you, Kenneth, again on just sharing your story, and just being that beacon of light for anybody that's going through a situation like yours, to know that there is hope. And even, once you get out, you can turn it around. So I just thank you for sharing your story and just being a really good role model and example for others. And then reaching back to help other people because you know what it's like. So thank you for that.
Thank y'all too.
I just want to say also, it's an honor to be here with all of you. I'm on here with a doctor. I'm on here with two authors, right? Business owners. So it's an honor to be here, and it humbles me every time that we have the opportunity to get on the podcast. Kenneth, I just pray that God continues to bless you and that you continue to see overflow. And I know you will because you sow into other people and you're still humble, just like Harry. He's going to continue to have blessings and overflow because he
Mm,
continues to sow into other people. And you said it best when you mentioned what the person told you. I can't remember what your friend said exactly. I don't want to butcher the words, but he said if you do the things that you're supposed to do and stay down here, then you will continue to grow and flourish, basically, and God will continue to water you because you planting seeds and you gonna grow.
yeah,
So
yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, yeah, this is good stuff. And so, um, until later this year. That's what I'm speaking it out by faith. But this is going to conclude our my mind playing tricks on me, factors affecting our mental health. I don't know what episode you might be coming in on, but if you haven't seen all seven episodes, I would encourage you to go back and watch the whole series. Binge watch it. All right, binge watch it. Share it, please. Listen, watch, subscribe, all those good things. And hey, we got so much love for you. And no, this is just a pause in the cause, and we'll definitely be back. But as we always say before we get out of here, it's strength for today, sustenance for tomorrow. It's your boy, your potential conditioner. We love you. The New Balance Podcast. We'll see you when you see you. Peace. Wow.